Now that's interesting to me because from what I've observed, Latino culture definitely there's a big machismo there. So for you to even approach that, and from a military family on top of it, I think about Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. You just jigged my memory up in that. When he says a long piece, but one of the most beautiful pieces I've ever read is about getting the merciful distance between a father and a son, which will permit the son to love the father instead of trying to become this other thing. Do you? How do you feel in your family now? Are you the artist that went astray? Are you a man under machismo norms, or where do you fit in today?
That's a good question. I sort of put my time in, you know? So my family kind of thinks, first my family thinks I'm insane because I was a supposedly smart kid. Like I went to high school, was a smart kid. And if you're an immigrant and you have a smart kid, they're not supposed to become artists. My mother's still waiting for me to start med school, and I'm not lying. I'm actually not lying. My mom is still like, when is this phase going to end? Yeah? But I sort of put my, this is in some ways the torment of my life. I sort of put my time in, which is to say that my sort of masculine ghetto credentials, while anyone can question them, at home, they're considered impeccable, where I lived my whole life on welfare, food stamps, Section 8 housing. I worked my way through college full-time. I worked in a steel mill and delivering pool tables. Like a lot of students...
Did you get government cheese?
We did.
I got some cheese.
Yeah. A lot of students, for real, a lot of students will be like, I worked my way through college, and they'll work at the library for 4 hours. I was fucking working in a steel mill. So my family basically thinks I've certainly done the role. They're kind of like, we liked you better
you can
when
pass.
you were... Well, yeah, they just say, we liked you better when you were stupid. Like when you just were the boy. But again, I think they've you're 42. I think all of us got to come to peace with our families, even families we love, And I think to quote Baldwin as well, it's the thing that you can do as a child is you can forgive your parents, and you can also forgive yourself, But I don't know. I think my family really wants. In some ways, they just wish. I sense it, that they kind of wish that I was lifting weights again, I think they would think I would have less time to get in trouble. Yeah,
Well, trouble is you're going to be in trouble if you're going to do art. You're going to create, even for yourself, it's a struggle. And I don't think, is it true, my experience in America was no one likes trouble, but we're always in trouble.
Yeah, and nobody likes artists.
Artists and hippies.
Yeah.
Damn them to hell. They caused every problem we've known. Yeah.
No, like, if you go to college, in college, people will be like, artists are good, And if you only have to talk to somebody for about 3 minutes, they'll be like, oh, I like art. But if you get stuck on a plane next to somebody who's not an artist, after about 2 hours, they will reveal how if we were all on a rowboat after the Titanic sank, and there was like a doctor, a dentist, a psychiatrist, a teacher, and an artist, the first person they would eat would be like the artist. Yes. And then they would like start looking at the teacher. They would be like, and I just think we're in a state as a civilization where artists and teachers are viewed fundamentally suspiciously, under great suspicion. Really, I think, people are like, yay to artists, but for real, they will eat us.
Yeah. They will eat you. Well, the underside of the human, now it's gone to zero now, but I'm going to go for just a second more here. the underside of that, if you look at what Alan Bloom suggested in The Closing of the American Mind, is that these fast-track MBA degrees and stuff that give you art appreciation and Greek mythology as opposed to the actual Greek literature, they do implant this idea that the student has been challenged. So there's a dark underside to this. Should teachers put their head on the block and challenge more strenuously at the moment, or do we just sit and be ate up?
I mean, could teachers challenge anymore? You know, I think people like to talk about like the bad teacher, but if anybody's ever gone into a high school, chances are there's as many good teachers like fighting like crazy to teach their students as there are bad teachers who are getting drunk and who aren't doing their work and who aren't qualified. I think that for me, especially with the arts, I can't speak for what's happening in the Czech Republic. I can talk to you about what's happening in America. The same way I was talking about that lifeboat. In a school, the first thing that gets jettisoned when there are cuts in the budget is arts. This year I taught at NYU, and NYU, the students have a reputation for being artistic, which depending on what state that is, that's coded for different things, you know? And which is to say, like, artistic, if you're from Southern Jersey, that's like direct translation, you are gay, you know? And negatively gay, you know? I think that for me what was interesting, and we can sort of finish with this, is that even in a place like NYU, the arts is being taught the same way that they're teaching dentistry. My NYU students, what really kind of shocked me is that so many of them wanted to finish their undergraduate degrees and go right from their undergraduate degrees to an arts program directly, which is what dentists do, right? If you're an undergraduate as a dentist, you want to study dentistry, you go right from your undergraduate to dentistry school. But the reason that anybody wants art is not because we want to hear about your experience in an academic institution. An artist has to bring back news from the world. And if my students, and I kept telling them again and again, if you're serious about being an artist, what you need to do, and you cannot put enough emphasis on this, is you need to go into the world. You need to bring us back news from a world where nobody cares what your major is, nobody cares what you wrote, nobody cares anything about your intellect, nobody cares what dorm or what street you lived on, where you join the rest of the world of being someone who's pretty much irrelevant. And I think it's from this point of view of encountering a world unprotected by an academic institution that real art develops. And I was stunned at how many of my brightest, smartest students felt a very strong adversity for being out in the world. They were against, antagonism is the word, a very strong antagonism for encountering the world. But the only art worth living with is art that develops when you are out in the world. So I keep telling these little guys, they come in, they're like 19, like I want to finish this school and get right to an MFA program. I keep telling them, you can do that and you can write books, but I promise you, the person who spends 4 or 5 years out in the world is going to kick your book's ass. They're just going to kill you.
And they're going to steal your government cheese.
A word. And probably steal your cheese. Guys, thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Junot Diaz.